August Bernard says, I think it's funny when religious people don't celebrate Halloween because they say it was originally a pagan holiday. Halloween is a Catholic holiday instituted by the Pope in, I believe, the 6th century.
Yeah, it was All Saints Day. But I mean,
Yep.
it's
It's also Samhain, which was the new year. It's like the harvest is ended and it's a new year beginning. It's like their new year was their reset of the year was right before the start of winter instead of we go by the solar winter.
Yeah, but I think that was only like I think like the Celts and the Picts that had that. I don't think anybody else did, but whatever.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think you're right. It's primarily Celtic. But the interesting thing about that is they believe that's when one of the 2 times of the year when the veil between worlds is at its thinnest. And at that night, they would have what's called the dumb supper. They would set the table, and then they would set places for the family and friends who had passed, and they would honor their memory by setting places at the table for that. And since they believed that's when the veil was at the thinnest, they wanted to make sure that the nasty spirits didn't come and mess this up. So they would take some of their stuff and put it outside as libations. So all the ghouls would come take the treat and not go in and play tricks. That's where the custom comes from.
Or you can put in short how Roseanne Barr said in her show, they come for the candy because they don't got chocolate in hell. All they have is the cheap stuff.
Isn't also the Christmas tree and the thing you hang outside on your door, and that shit like originates?
Yes, it is.
The Romans,
no.
In there.
We relabeled meaning, but pretty much we use the same traditions as some of the old pagans, and we just apply different symbols.
The Christmas tree actually has a Christian origin, and I believe it's Saint Boniface, and it had to do with him eliminating the worship of Odin amongst the Germanic tribes. So he cut down their sacred oak tree. And when the oak tree came down, it took down a bunch of other trees in the forest, with the exception of a pine tree. He then used the pine tree to symbolize the evergreen life of Jesus Christ, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but in the thing you put up on the door, that one, whatever it's called.
Wreaths are wreaths. I mean, they just...
Every culture has wreaths of different types.
Yeah, so it doesn't really mean much of anything. It's the Christmas tree, and it's like Christmas tree and Santa Claus. Santa Claus, the name, well, actually, in Germany they had two separate holidays: a Saint Nicholas Day and a Santa Claus Day. Now the Christmas, but Christmas was never originally conceived to be a time when you gave presents. It was conceived as a holy, a feast day. And the early church had lots of feasts, especially during the winter, because you really didn't have anything else to do. But I mean, if you go through the calendar, and actually Christmas, the name Christmas comes from Christ's Mass,
yes,
which is just a day where you take the Mass for Jesus Christ. So a lot of the things that they say that it's originated from pagan pagan times. There's some things like the Yule log that comes from Germanic practice. But I mean,
but you're going to see cultural mix.
Because you're going to see cultural mix. But the whole Christmas tree thing, that is actually a part of the Christmas tradition. So it does have from the pagans. No, it does have. Well, it does. Some saint went and chopped down an oak tree. And pissed off a bunch of Germans. But if that actually has a Christian origin.
And quick sidebar: do you know why the oak tree was considered sacred to Thor?
I thought it was Odin. I think it was because Odin hung himself from it.
Well, that as well, but oak trees get struck by lightning more than any other type of tree.
Great. That's great. I got an oak tree right outside my window.
Yeah, I do too. I also have the lightning rod on top of the roof, and the wire comes down right by my window out here. So sometimes I step outside for a cigarette and I look to the side. I'm like, yeah, storm coming in. I'm standing right there. You know.
Yeah, and well, we had a tree trimming guy over earlier this year, and he said, yeah, you know, you might want to take out that oak tree in your neighbor's yard. You know, all it takes, you know, if that one limb comes down, it'll take out your garage. And now you're telling me that it's most likely to get struck by lightning.
Yeah.
So,
But speaking of the cultural
that's
mix,
great.
yeah. Speaking of the cultural mix, if you look at Santa Claus himself, I mean, not only is there, you know, he's like Saint Nicholas, you know, there's obviously drawn on saints, but his overall appearance was heavily garnished off the Green Man from Cernunnos.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, well, I mean, Santa Claus, Santa Claus actually, I think it came out of Germany, but I mean, over in like England, they didn't have a
With a name
Santa
like
Claus.
Klaus? No.
No. Well, I think it originated that may have originated in Germany, but that really only became a thing in America, which is kind of weird because we're talking about all
Coca-Cola.
this, talking about all this cultural stuff, but it only became a thing in America. Over in Britain, they had Father Christmas. And of course, all in Europe, they have all these different traditions, like Krampus. And nobody, you know, I've never heard of it until I was older. So
Yule itself.
Well, you
Yeah.
didn't hear about Krampus beating the shit out of little kids because
no,
they did.
I
What,
mean-
is he like Cernunnos' evil twin or something?
and Spain's got their own thing, and everybody's got their own stuff.
What's interesting though is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the South American Day of the Dead pretty much happens the same time as Halloween. That's kind of funny. Two separate cultures having similar themes at the exact same
November
time.
1st and November 2nd.
Okay, I'm good with that.
It's kind of funny where the world picks up on some kind of vibe because no matter where you go, people are still doing the same crap.
Well, don't forget South America is largely the cultures are a mixture of, you know, Europe, mainly Portuguese and Spanish and
Right.
Native American. Now,
A whole bunch of Iberian.
wherever it came from, I don't know. Maybe it was a mix of both. I don't know.